All this stuff you've been doing out in the Midlands, huh? You've been out in the Midlands getting something going. Always, always, always interesting stuff from Carl Pearson, that's for sure. And welcome, welcome very, very much to Conversation. Pleasure. Great friend of Conversations of the World, Carl Pearson, extraordinary individual, human being, as it were, always busy doing things in the side of civil liberties, antitrust, and injustices that exist in great abundance in our society, always fighting against that. And Carl, welcome once again so much to Conversation.
I thank you very much, and I enjoy always the opportunity to talk with you and present the ideas. It's so important, you know. The ideas that can cure the evils that we're now facing are here.
Yeah.
We have the ideas, but the system really is set up to prevent these ideas from breaking through.
Okay.
That people at various levels are told, I think, not to accept a good idea. Look for the stuff that's diversionary, that won't help. Let's push the ideas that don't mean anything, because in politics, you know that that's what happens. But why doesn't it happen outside of politics? And it does. It really does. So today,
it happens within bureaucracy.
So today in the New York Post,
yeah, okay. Let's mark the day. This is the what's the day? 13th of November.
On the 13th of November.
2008. We just had the election and
right.
all that. Yeah.
So I saw this article when I was having lunch a couple of hours ago, and that's all, just a couple of hours ago.
That's Carl
and it
Pearson.
said Lonesome Dave, and I said, I wonder which Dave Brubeck, or which Dave are we talking about? Oh, David Paterson. Oh, I see. I didn't know. I forgot his first name. But I read it, and it said that David Paterson, the governor, is in terrible trouble right now because he has a shortfall of in excess of $1 billion and has to make big decisions of how to cut the budget, how to stop people from getting money in order to shore up our finances for New York State. And I'm saying, you know, that he doesn't really understand what the problem is. Nobody seems to understand the problem. As I see the problem, if everyone in the United States could have sufficient income,
right?
Isn't that the problem?
Yeah, absolutely.
The problem is not cutting
99 points. That'll take care of 99.9% of the emotional difficulties.
So I told him, I sat down and wrote a letter to the governor. But first of all, I went into a website, the governor's own website, and I got his telephone number.
Good.
So I called the governor up, and lo and behold, the governor did not answer. It was somebody else who answered.
Well done. Well done. Good timing. You can go on Saturday Night Live. Yeah.
So I talked to this woman. It's like the faceless woman that you have at the bank who tells you, "Don't worry about your foreclosure." It's one of many women that work for the governor. So I told her that I have a great idea that would make the governor the most popular person in the country because I have a solution for his biggest problem. And she said, "Well, what is that problem?" I said, "He doesn't understand the problem. I mean, it won't do you any good if I tell you the problem. The problem is he doesn't understand what the problem is."
Right, it's a tautology.
So here is the problem. The problem is that he feels, and everyone is talking about the fact that we don't have enough jobs in the country. Yeah. And that as a result, and we're even having fewer and fewer jobs, he's going to create more layoffs. That's what he's now planning to do, is to have more layoffs. But he's saying instead in this article that instead of doing layoffs, I just want everyone to take a cut so we don't have to fire anyone. There's a dispute as to whether we cut people out totally or just reduce their income. And Mayor Bloomberg wants to fire people in order that the people that remain will be happy because they won't suffer a loss of income. Whereas Governor Paterson would reduce the income of every state worker, which would make everyone unhappy. So that isn't a politically acceptable tool, is what the Bloomberg says. There's a fight now between Albany and Manhattan or New York City. But I'm not in that because they don't understand the problem. Okay. The problem is how do we get income to the people, not how do we take it away.
Okay.
So we haven't yet defined what it is that we need to do to make income. We think that it is jobs. We think of it as employment, and you do too.
Well, I mean, that's the national policy grounding statement for the United States economy, is the Employment Act of 1946. That's the basic policy grounding statement. We're going to distribute income by jobs.
But there's a fallacy in defining jobs as the way that we get income.
No, but that is the way that is legitimately to get in. And I agree with you. But that is the problem.
It is a fallacy, and it is wrongful thinking to believe that all you need to do is to generate jobs. It may well be, as you and I have talked in the past, and I ducked the issue. I ducked the issue because I didn't know how to deal with it. You tried to confront me one time with an argument of what happens when there is no longer a need for jobs.
Well, okay,
and I didn't want to answer that.
That's because Lord Keynes said in the letter to the grandchildren in 1930.
I wasn't willing to deal with that, so I just fluffed it off as a ridiculous argument. But more and more we are coming to the point where corporations really don't want to hire people. One of the reasons is that the payroll taxes that we've added to the employment are so substantial. Then we have the benefits, the health care, all of these other benefits, which I like. I mean, I would like to have it for myself, but I never have. But as a result of the higher costs in America, we have become non-competitive with the rest of the world. And now our jobs are going to the other parts of the world where they don't give benefits, where they give jail sentences instead of vacations, where people work in prison camps and make sneakers for a nickel a pair.
So, with all due respect, Carl, I think that's like outsourcing, and it can be a race to the bottom.
Right.
And that that kind of thing, China and that kind of stuff and everything. But this thing Lord Keynes said in 1930 is that you're going to be confronted by technologically induced unemployment. I just did a program with a young fellow that's going to air. It's going to air Thursday. And I talked about you got out in Kansas, you got a combine going across the field making 10 billion gallons, and they don't even have a driver in there now.
Okay, but here's the thing, the point.
And it's all owned by a tiny group of people, and they're trying to distribute income. I mean, that's a metaphor.
Okay, here's the problem.
Tremendous production, and it's all owned by one person.
We don't
no
need,
income going to the masses.
We don't need jobs. We don't have to create jobs in the country. That is a fallacy to think that the only way of pulling out of this is to create jobs.
Thank you. That's
There's another way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally new. It's something you haven't thought of. It's brand new.
Okay.
I've thought of it. I've created a website to do it. I am creating a marketplace for the performance of tasks.
Okay, instead of jobs.
Instead of jobs.
Okay.
Now, a task is really self-employment, but broken down by tasks that a person is willing to do, such as somebody that will change light bulbs in marquees of theaters. They can say that I specialize in changing light bulbs in marquees of theaters or other businesses, outside bulbs. Somebody that will replace bulbs under the dashboard of a car.
Okay,
somebody
that's
that will
specialization.
A specialization.
They used to have a book called The Specialist.
Well,
my daddy gave me that book.
You have over.
You know who The Specialist was? It was in the making of a privy. And you became specialized, and you had to do the half moon and everything. The specialist, and the specialist is the mark of our society.
Now,
right. All of those things you said were very interesting.
Now, so I told Governor Patterson, I wrote a letter to him saying that you don't understand the problem. The problem is not that we need more jobs. We need more hours by which people are doing something productive for income.
Well,
that's different.
What's the difference between doing something productive for income and a job? What's the difference?
A job is where you go to Walmart and for 8 hours a day you stand at a door because they tell you to, and you get $5 or $6 net at the end of the day.
Yeah, but what's
that's
they're
a job.
Doing that to
That's a job.
Right, or in a corporate boardroom, or vice president of a corporation, or marketing, or something.
An individual that advertises on my database that he repairs carburetors, and they have people sending a carburetor
like a Craigslist?
Well, it's similar, but it's broken down by tasks, so that people will, for free, can list 1,000 different tasks that they are willing to perform for money. And then somebody that wants somebody to, for example, mow lawns or tutor quantum mechanics high school level.
Latin irregular verbs.
So you just put the keywords of what you're looking for in the database, and you find people who are willing to do that work for money. Those are tasks. They're not jobs.
Okay,
it's
I don't see the
It's self-employment.
It's self-employment, self-identifying tasks that they want to do. It's much more directed toward the desires and the abilities of those people as they see it, rather than what some hiring human relation or human resource.
Which is easier, do you think, to have somebody say on a website that he is willing to repair or tune up a carburetor for $25 an hour, or to have somebody take their carburetor down, or to have that person go to a gas station and try to get a job repairing carburetors? Which is easier to earn money at?
Right.
It's harder getting a job. But if you break down the elements of a job into the different tasks that are being performed, then you can cut into that market and offer the tasks and do so more economically, because you go in, you do the task, and you get out, and you're not a permanent overhead to the employer. The employer doesn't want it, and you get the money direct. No payroll tax. You get it direct. You're self-employed. So what we have now in a small town I call Hopeless, Indiana.
Hopeless.
I've convinced. I had a 4-hour meeting with the mayor of Hopeless, Indiana.
Hopeless, Indiana.
That's a disguise for the real town.
Hopeless, Indiana.
I met 4 hours with the mayor, and I
Uh-huh.
convinced him to accept the 4-point package that I am bringing into that town. I'm bringing in a free college, a tuition-free college. I'm becoming the town attorney general.
Good. That's good. You get that going
Yes,
for
I got that going.
Yeah,
I got that
good.
going. I have a town employer of record where every small business and household that hires people can plug into a single payroll. And therefore, there's only one insurance policy, there's only one audit, there's only one set of files. You don't have to have 800 audits, 800 insurance policies. You can go in and out with yourself on payroll without having to close down payroll.
Where are the 800 coming from?
800 small businesses in the area. Each one has its own insurance policy for workman's comp.
Right.
You don't need that.
Group,
just one. Just have one.
Together,
It's like an office temp service.
It doesn't have to be tailored to individual situations?
No, each one pays his own costs.
Okay.
So the computer can figure that out.
Okay.
So that way you have a 20% increase in employment for the town merely by making classic employment with payroll deductions available to small business at a price that they can afford, and without involving the owners in onerous activities trying to support 1 or 2 people on payroll. We can now have part-timers and other things. So having a classic employment where the benefits, retirement, everything else would be available is one thing. Having a free college where we're even going to add a curriculum of bringing manufacturing into the area. Having an attorney general, myself, who will enforce the rights of the people in the town at government expense, so that if insurance companies and others are violating the law, that they can complain to me, and I will go in and bring a lawsuit at government expense. And
that's a great precedent, I think, you could set for the whole nation.
Right, and any monies that we get in the town as a result of my lawsuits will be used to pay for free health care for the residents of the town.
That's where okay, go on. Is that the fourth element?
The fourth one is the tasks marketplace. When 40% of the people in the town that would like to earn money register with the website, and it's all for free.
Right.
I will then have the town market that website in the 25-mile radius around the town to all these other things. That's 600 square miles or so. I forget pi r squared and all those formulas.
Yes, right. Yeah.
But around the town, you have maybe 600 square miles where we're going to market the services of 1 square mile.
Okay.
So that that's a lot of leverage there.
Right.
So people that have different types of automobiles can get persons skilled in repairing them. We can have tutoring that's done. We can mow lawns. We can plow roads. We can fix radiators. We can do anything if we define the task. Right now, if I have a radiator that needs fixing, I don't know who to go to, other than some big, elaborate, expensive place. So if we
Okay.
start having human beings do the work directly, and we have a way of connecting those that need it with those that do it.
This is not theoretical. This has actually
is
been
doing
worked
it. I'm
out by
doing
you
it
at
right
a
now.
particular. How
Yeah.
big is this town of Hopeless?
It's I'm going to have
Roughly.
to discuss. It's between 7 and 12,000.
Okay, it's a
Yeah,
town.
yeah,
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. All right, good. And everybody knows everybody. A town is a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's great. You got amazing things all wrapped up in that thing.
So I wanted the governor of New York State to know that this thing is what we should do. I want the governor to encourage every town, village, county, and city in New York State to adopt what I'm doing here, to do it themselves. They don't need me, by the way. They can do it. I have outlined what they need to do.
And were you able to send him an attachment with the details of that and
Yes,
so forth?
I sent him I
Could
wrote
you
a
still call it
two-page
Hopeless,
letter.
Indiana? Or
I didn't call it. I forget if I called it. Yeah, I did. I called it Hopeless, Indiana in the letter, and I told him the real name of the town. I
you
gave
did
him,
tell
yes,
him
I did.
that,
So
yeah.
if he can verify
Yeah, and
that
the
I'm
name
actually,
of the
yes.
mayor.
No,
who had-
I only mentioned the mayor without naming the person.
Who had the authority to set this up in a way that it actually becomes a reality there that you dealt with in the town?
The mayor.
It was the mayor of
Yeah,
that town,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he had the authority to do
He
that.
had the
What
authority, yeah.
actually was done? Anything legal documents filed? Any filings with the
No,
court,
because
county
you
court, or
don't
anything?
need that.
You don't need that.
You don't
It's
really
just
need that at all.
Okay.
It's to set up a free college. You only need, and they're looking for the space right now. We only need space. We don't need a campus. We don't need a library. We don't need food service. We don't need a dormitory. We don't need accreditation.
What do you need? You need
we
a
only
big
need.
giant server.
See this room here?
Yeah, this is
How
a
many
room.
how many chairs could fit in this room?
I would say maybe 100
That's
at the
too many.
outside, 50,
Class size
40,
30. Class
30.
size.
All right, yeah.
So
30.
you need a smaller room than this. You
Yeah.
put 30 seats in it. You put a blackboard right here. Now you have a college.
Blackboard. Why a blackboard?
Well, the people that
you wouldn't put up
a teacher, a professor likes to occasionally go to the blackboard and put something on it.
But okay.
You might as well. It costs another $20, so big deal.
Well, why couldn't you have a computer screen?
You could.
Couldn't they tap into the computer? Seems to me
You
this
can
is
do
all
that.
based off
You can
on the
do that.
cyber capability to tap into the world.
When you
Or
could
it
do
may be
that.
not,
It,
yeah.
it may depend upon the quality
Or
of
where's the
instruction.
professor going to come from? If you're going to be a human
from
being.
from the area, and the professor is going to be paid a prevailing wage. They're not going to earn like
What's the professor going to teach?
well a college curriculum, and not one professor. You'll have English. You will have
In one
history.
room?
No, you'll have. You need an office building. You need a floor with about 6 or 7 different rooms, and that
Yeah, go on, yeah.
You let's say that you have 6 rooms and you in one office, and it's probably not on the second floor, but it could be.
Does
It's a
the room
small
already?
town.
Does the building already exist?
They're looking for it now.
Okay,
They're
I
looking-
mean they're finding one of the buildings that
Yes.
are there already
Yeah,
built,
but-
and
but
they could transfer.
The
yeah.
advantage of this is that because you only need space, you don't care if the space is rented out from under you. You can always find substitute space. Therefore, you won't pay much if you're
It
using
isn't
the
down
downtime.
to where you could do that in the man's basement, the professor's
no,
basement, or something like that.
No,
or in
you
the
want
present.
to have an
I was just
organized
thinking.
college. No, you want space, but if that building can be rented to a good tenant, then you don't want to interfere with a landlord. You want to find alternative space.
Okay.
There's always alternative space,
Is there? Yeah, I
especially
guess
when
there
the
probably
economy is bad.
That's true.
There's
yeah.
always space.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
there will
so
be.
that's not a problem. You can just move the chairs over into the other building, or you
Yeah.
can have an annex. You don't have to have it all under one roof.
But you're not exactly. If you're a citizen A in hopeless Indiana,
right.
much less in hopeless New York City or
Right,
wherever
right,
you
right.
happen to be hopeless,
Right.
and you have access to, let's say, let me just make a point. I'm trying to understand it.
Yes.
Make a point. You have access. One of the things I'm really happy they had a British University or Open University was something that opened up. But now you have a thing you could just set on a computer and you can have access to the websites and the media of our leading scholars from all over the planet. They got the Open University, the British Museum. There's all kinds of sites that are incredibly rich in terms of educating yourself. So how are they going to find somebody from that town of Hopeless? Is it the local clerk or somebody who's going to be the faculty member to stand in front of that blackboard when you can compete with the computer?
Let me ask you this. At any college, do they put the best professors in teaching undergraduate?
No, they don't. The
Okay, so
professors-
stop
those
right
are-
there. So stop
well, you
right
can't
there.
even get teacher assistant.
So you put in a teaching assistant, a person studying for a
graduate.
master's degree.
Yeah.
So college education in America does not put the top people in at the college level.
Okay.
So
right.
so why do you think I'm going to have trouble finding unemployed PhDs in the area? People that would be willing to earn money?
Well, how large an area are you talking about?
Enough to support a college that would have, say, and I'm making up this figure now,
Yeah.
if we had an enrollment of 500 people per year
Okay.
in the area, 500 people.
In the town is how large?
Let's just average out between 7 and 12, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, say 9,500.
I used to live in town. New Paltz is about that.
Okay.
That's a nice
That has
town.
a huge,
That's a nice
that has a
size.
huge
It's very
college.
human.
That's
They have the college
yeah.
connected, but that's
Right.
state supported. That's
Right.
different. You take New Paltz or a town
Right.
like New Paltz without the college.
In
we have a lot of professors walking around the college.
I talked to Woodstock, New York.
Yes,
And
that's right.
and
Last time we met,
yes, and we agreed that we could include the the various towns around Woodstock, because Woodstock was not large enough to have its own college.
Really, yeah.
So Kingston, we were going to
Kingston's
include Kingston.
pretty big, yeah.
There's no college within 25 miles of Woodstock. So we can set up a free college in Woodstock, and it could include as far as Kingston.
Okay.
That's doable.
Oh, you could draw, and you can
Yeah.
draw upon an area beyond the immediate
Yeah.
town.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. But
oh,
you-
there,
but you-
there.
but you
see,
have to restrict
You
them.
hit pay dirt with me because I
Yeah.
understand the area well. I used
Right.
to
You
live
have
there.
to restrict the residents only to residents because it's free. And you're going to have people from New York and from California, from Germany coming in to attend a free college. And the local people, it isn't really free. It's just that the students attend without cost.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in Hopeless, Indiana, the mayor decided that we're going to charge $2,000 tuition per year to get the college going.
Okay.
And then we're going to
Okay.
switch to a tuition-free status later. We don't want to complicate our lives by having to do both at the same time. We want to get
Okay.
the college going. $2,000 a year for college is not expensive.
Not at all by the
It's
standard.
not at all.
No, it isn't. What is it
It's
at Harvard?
$40 a week.
Yeah, what is it at Harvard?
At
40,000.
Harvard,
40,000.
well, you have to look at all the costs. Your
Yeah.
costs are about $60,000 or $70,000 because you have all sorts of added costs of transportation, of food and dormitory and trips back and additional clothing and expenses. The whole thing is very expensive.
They have a big, what do you call it? What do you call it? Annulment? No, not annulment.
They have
what do you call
they
it?
lost a third of its value in that.
What do you call that? When
I'll
they've
think
got,
of it in a second. They
yeah.
have their.
You know.
I know what it is,
you
but
know
they
what I
lost
mean,
a
too. I
third
know
of its
what
value.
It has really,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
They're doing. But and then they've also got accreditation by all the accrediting agencies.
Yeah, well, they
And
are,
I don't think
yeah.
your Hopeless Indiana U is going to have accreditation.
It won't be because we won't grant a degree.
You
By
won't
not
grant a
granting a degree, we can strip 95% of the costs out of college.
Is that true?
Yes.
Say that again.
Oh, yeah. By not
it
having
again.
a degree, but
Yeah.
giving an equivalency certificate,
Okay.
I can strip out 95% of the costs, and I can give you the figure. It's better than 95%. The cost at Harvard would be $60,000 or $70,000
Right.
for various reasons. There's
Yeah.
transportation. There's a lot of other things, but you got to figure $70,000. But in my college, it's only $2,000, so that's 1/35th, which is 3%. I do it for. I save 97% of the college costs. But the person in my town lives at home. They have to live at home,
Yeah.
and I'm not taking into
bad?
account the cost of the car to get back and forth.
Right. Okay.
But there aren't really that many added costs. You live at home; it's no extra cost.
Yeah, it's nothing to
so
go
it's
down.
really
You're just
nothing.
going down the
Right.
street, really. Yeah.
So-
in a town that size, yeah.
So having a free equivalency college means that you don't grant a degree. You don't have tenure of the professor. At Harvard Law School, I estimate they pay each Harvard Law professor $2,000 an hour to teach.
Good grief, really.
The reason is that they teach 3 hours a day, 3 hours a week. times 16 weeks in a semester, 2 semesters a year is 100 hours of instruction. They get $200,000. I'm making up, but I'm sure it's about that. It has to be.
Yeah, well, it's the math.
Or more, or maybe 400,000.
You've been through that.
Yeah.
You've been through that Harvard law school.
So they're paying them at a minimum of $2,000 an hour.
You found something.
Yeah.
I've been to Harvard Law School, and I find something lacking in its accoutrements.
No, I think Harvard Law School was great, and I duplicated Harvard Law first year when I set up a school in New York.
You did? How long did you have that thing going?
18 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, so I know what the costs of instruction are.
Paralegals.
I know what the costs of instruction are. I know every penny, so I can set up a school.
But in that, if I may, Carl, I hear what you're saying and everything. But in that one where you had that, you were training paralegals. There was a steady market for all the in that.
It was not a steady market. When I started it, there wasn't a market. It was brand new. It was
good for you.
I was the second school in the country. I created the market, and it grew from zero. Every year for 15 straight years, it was the #1 fastest growing career field in the United States for 15 straight years.
That's what you get for being ahead of
15 straight years.
That's what you get for being a visionary.
That's right. So I have
reading the wind.
What is even better, I think, is to train people to be an assistant to the owner of a small business. What skills
like
you have to have. Oh my, not at all. Not at all.
No?
Totally different.
Okay,
totally different.
Okay.
When I as a small businessman, have to worry about 1,000 different things. And if I take on my first employee, my problems are increased by payroll taxes, by payroll compliance, all the paperwork just to take on one employee.
We got a friend. That we're developing, Mr. Siri. He's from Africa.
Yeah.
And he's got this thing called the African Chamber of Commerce in the United States of America, or United States. And he got 54 countries there, and they come here, and they cannot So he helps them understand the way the system works with all the regulations and all the things.
It works easiest if you work alone. That's why 50% of the lawyers in the country are individual practitioners.
Is that a true factor?
50%.
Okay, okay.
And it's unfortunate because, and therefore I have always been working without knowing it, and sometimes realizing it. I have always been trying to figure out a way to find independent services, independent contractors who can do what I need when I need it, and then not have an overhead because I've hired them. I don't want to hire somebody forever. No. I want to get a job done that I have today. I need something done today.
We have a lot of temp agency and manpower and
things
like that.
Those are not as specific. Okay. There you hire a person that can type on a given...
Yeah, they have a specific skill
set. So that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I want to... Since when could you go to an employment agency and find somebody to fix a carburetor?
Have a specific task.
Right.
Rather than a mechanic.
Right. So instead of just saying that,
like taxonomy.
Yes, I'm familiar with a computer. I want to know somebody who can do very specifically. They can replace a motherboard in a computer, for example.
Don't get into the cyber thing because I get knocked out.
But if you'll view it, if you'll think of this, we have probably on the order of 10 million to 100 million different tasks that can be defined.
Really?
Oh, sure.
That'd be
Well,
interesting.
take for example, what do you think the inventory is of IKEA?
20,000
different items that you could buy, maybe. I'm guessing.
Many, yeah.
But each one has a part number, so a person could say, I assemble IKEA desk model number 84625YZ for $75. Now, how many other ads could they put in, highly specific?
Yeah.
That's just one firm.
Yeah, and what if the market is
what
only
about
out
carburetors?
What if the person who needs that skill, he's in Hopeless, Indiana,
right?
And the other one's beyond Hopeless, Oregon.
If everyone in every town and village in the United States covers the area, then a person in zip code 10001 would say, I want somebody to repair a carburetor for a Studebaker 1929 carburetor Studebaker. And they can search in a 35, up to a 50-mile radius.
Right,
they may not find anyone.
Yeah.
But with a 1929 Studebaker carburetor, you are obviously equipped to take it out and mail it to the guy.
Right.
So you can get it fixed. You don't know where to get it fixed right now, but if
it's
somebody.
True. It's true.
So we have truly
Yeah.
100 million tasks that we could put in there if we think about it.
Yeah.
So already now,
That's
imagine how many
Must
towns
have a hell of a database.
how many towns and villages are there in the United States?
I have
Roughly?
no
I'll give you a
idea.
figure.
Okay.
I paid $50 to Yahoo to look it up.
Okay.
And they did a beginning of a job. I did other work on it. The answer is about 40,000.
40,000 towns and villages?
And counties. Towns, cities, villages, and counties,
Wait a
about
minute, that's
40,000.
encompassing a lot of different things.
Well,
Okay.
but they have governmental units.
That's
They're all
cities and-
governmental units.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So there's about 40,000.
Okay.
So imagine if every governmental unit only had one person to assist the residents in the area to maximizing and in qualifying the number of tasks they put in the computer. That's 40,000 new jobs. Just by helping people.
Job lot. Or I mean, it's the thing.
Well, just
that
by
we do.
helping
Once
people.
you can repair that computer, that it's not a job in the same way. It's
Well,
a task.
no,
like you said.
it's
It's
self-employment.
Self-employment.
Looking
yeah,
to
right.
help people maximize the tasks that they add into that and following it.
And to get those people together, you would have to have a really pretty rich database.
It'll happen by automatically.
Yeah.
With eBay, how many people help persons put their
I
stuff?
don't know how
It's a
those
big
things-
business
yeah,
all over the
huge.
country.
It's
Well,
growing
this is going to
tremendously.
be the same thing. Instead of listing videos and home items that you have to sell,
Right.
we're listing the hours that we want to
Right.
sell.
Okay. Take the eBay model.
and they
right.
need advisors to help them shape the keywords so that they can maximize their income.
Keywording's
So
important.
there's
yeah.
40,000 jobs I've created overnight, but many communities are going to have so
Well,
many.
I don't think you can call them jobs.
Well,
can
there are
you? Can you
40,000.
call them
Well,
jobs?
I don't like calling it jobs because
Transaction.
these are independent contractors. They're
Okay.
self-employment type
Okay.
positions. They're
Okay, yeah.
self-employment.
Yeah.
And they aren't jobs. They're self-employment, but they're better than jobs. They pay a lot of money. If you become self-employed, you make a lot of money potentially. You also can lose.
Yeah.
But if you go to work for a person that owns the business and you're merely the employee sweeping up, then they pay you the $8 an hour. You go home and you complain that you only got $6 after taxes. I can't live on $48 a day. I need more than that. Well, don't complain. Try to do tasks where you can charge people $75
What if
for
some-
assembling an IKEA desk.
All right, but what if people don't have tasks that are going to be able to realize a real
But that's
return
why you
market?
need a manager to help you define the tasks that you can do. If you're not that sharp
Yeah.
and you really can't figure out the things that people want in America,
Can't do anything
then
right. I'm
let
all
a
thumbs.
manager
Yeah.
come in and help you as an advisor. Instead of getting broker advice on where to spend your money, how do you spend your time? And that's where you need a broker to help you spend your time.
That's part of
It's
your
a
program?
brand new market.
Yeah.
It's a brand new market. You have to look at, we're looking to sell hours of work. I have 50 hours a week that I could sell that are unsold right now. You have 50 hours a week that you could sell. How do we get people to buy our time? They have to know what we're willing to do. So if we have a marketplace for tasks, then our job for ourselves is really to try to define what it is that we can offer that other people are looking for.
And you've made this proposal to the mayor of Hopeless, Indiana.
Yes, and they like it.
And they
yeah.
like it, and
Yeah.
they're going with it. What
Yes.
about what happened up in Woodstock? Is that still going?
It's
or is
still
it still
pending.
talking?
It's still
That's
pending, but
pending.
yeah, but I'm-
Woodstock's closer to home.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
care. I'm
Okay.
willing to go anywhere in the United States to set up a free college
Yeah, go on.
to
You
do
can-
my task marketplace, because the tasks should be centered around a given town, because I can then market those tasks within 25 miles of the town. If a town could put 3,000 people on the computer with tasks,
Yeah.
and everyone put in 400 tasks,
I
3,000
mean,
people.
those are things they could perform.
Keyword: mow lawns. That's one task.
Okay.
Mow lawns.
All right. Yeah.
Fix carburetor. Fix Studebaker carburetor 1929 model.
That's getting pretty special.
That's what we
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
We need help in specialized areas. We don't need somebody any longer that says, "Look, I'm available for a
marketer.
job. I'm
Yeah.
available for a job.
Yeah.
I do
Human resources.
I do
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah,
I'm good
right.
at marketing.
Right,
yeah.
right,
Come
yeah,
on, give me
yeah.
a break. What kind of marketing? What kind of marketing? Are you good at blogging? Are you good at RSS feeds? Are you good at Web 3.0? Are you good at CEO and SEO, search engine optimization? Are you good at the meta tags? Which meta tags? I'm having trouble with my meta tags. I need help right now with my goddamn meta tags. So these are all special. Well, that's the point.
Yeah,
that I need help.
tag?
A meta tag is a way in a website that you can identify a string of words as to what the import of the meta tag. So that one meta tag is a keyword description of what your website is. Another one is a like a sentence of what your website is. Another one is who authored the website. Another one is what year was it or what date. Meta tags are a way that you can classify your website yourself and let the search engines that pick this up through the crawlers to know what the content is all about.
You've done a lot. You've learned a lot, haven't you? How to make the computers work and everything. Yeah.
People have skills that are phenomenal, but they don't think about what they do. They only think job. If I can only get a job where I can show up and get a check every week, I will be so happy. Why don't you think of what people really want? They want tasks performed for them.
Well, I don't know. People want money. I think one part. I mean, apart from all the fulfilling nature of how fulfilling and good it is for the personality, the identity of the person, and all those kind of psychological considerations. But in a certain sense, people need and want, and the system needs the people to have income in order to clear the market.
But I'm saying this,
because we got that big problem to confront.
I'm telling you this.
Do you think we're heading for a deflationary and depression?
But let me just say this though, and that is that everyone recognizes that we have a reduction in jobs and it's getting worse. Is that true?
Well, that is true beyond even the normal. It's not cyclic. It's not 90, 71.
So I have a solution to it.
It's in the zeitgeist.
But if anyone could come up with a solution to it, wouldn't you be interested?
Absolutely.
I have the solution here, but people don't realize it because they don't think that a job is no more than the performance of a variety of tasks for a single employer. I'm saying let's identify all the different tasks that you would be willing to do, even those that you're not doing today, but those that you would be willing to do. I'd be willing to repair a 1929 Studebaker carburetor, and I don't know how now, but if I were paid enough, I'd be goddamn sure I'd learn how to do it. So we don't need to restrict ourselves to what we do today. Look at what people want. Find a need and fill it. And if we do that, we're going to have everyone in America working for the hours that they want to work and earning a living. And it's a new way of looking at it. We have to have a marketplace for tasks.
Okay, that's very interesting. That's very interesting and all. Is there any precedence for what you're doing?
No, of course not. I don't do that.
You're off in new territory again, Pearson?
Look,
I'm shocked, Pearson, to hear that you're off entrepreneurially onto something that's brand new.
But there's so much. I mean, people that would know, for example, a specific type of equipment and how to use it.
Yeah.
A chroma. What's that key?
Chroma key.
Chroma key. Somebody model number so and so, or whatever people know how to do. They ought to be able to tell others that I know how to do this. I'm willing to do it for you. I can give you instruction over the phone. I can do it in other ways. We can.
Okay, if I may, let me. That's really interesting. Hopeless, Indiana. I did my doctorate work in Indiana, so I like Indiana. I got a place in my heart. Hopeless. That's great. But anyway, the thing is, then, so you run counter your thesis and the way the society and Mr. Patterson could take account of this, and I wish you best, always like that. But it runs counter to the general theory level of thinking that John Maynard Keynes presented in that letter to his grandchildren. We made it at the beginning of this program, is that beyond outsourcing and all the rest of the kind of permutations, that he said, you are going to be confronted with massive technologically induced unemployment. That includes tasks. And that the economy is increasingly being, the model, I threw out a model, I think, or was it with you or with the fellow I just talked to, I'm not sure, of a combine going over a field without even a driver. And still, they're going to distribute income according to nobody. If you own one nut on that thing producing 20 billion, just doing that, that could, if you had a piece of ownership of that could be a source of income to you. But if you don't, and there's no job there. but you think you can create jobs by
Yes.
calling them tasks, and that will be a way in which we're going to be able to get the economy going by calling them tasks rather than job roles, and that you're going to be able to have a significant amount of demand percolated or created within the society to meet the problem that we face right now on this November 13, 2008, where people do not have enough money to buy to clear the market, and the credit agencies are leery to do it, and we just had another 400,000 people laid off. And Mr. Keynes said it's not temporary; it is a thing of the zeitgeist. That we need a new economic series that is going to have to finally get down to where you can't depend on paying people for what they do. You have to give them a piece of the action, a piece of ownership of systems of technologically based productive capability, which is in fact the reality beyond the labor theory of value and the Employment Act of 1946, or else we're going to go into a gigantic deflationary depression like 1929, and 1929 isn't relevant to now because the situation
I've run an end run around your argument.
Okay, good.
Your argument is that big corporations can't work out in the long run unless they share with the people that create the wealth of the corporation. I'm saying
no.
I thought you were saying that.
No, we have to have a way of doing our capital accumulation where we have distribution of ownership of technological systems of production, because they are increasingly responsible for production in ratio with labor. Labor is being phased out of the productive process. We should have things like gigantic Walmarts and things where they can take advantage of gigantic economies of scale and so forth, and then they should have a piece of the action of Walmart to have income so they can walk in the front of Walmart and buy what can be bought, rather than trying to get a task off Craigslist or a job through the distribution of labor principle that embodies our basic policy grounding statement, the Employment Act of 1946. The people, the peasants, are going to work and get something for what they do. The people who own the assets are going to get work by what they own, and that should be addressed.
I object totally, because all you're saying is that you would like to see the biggest corporation in the world, the largest one, even get larger and larger and larger, and then let everyone share in it. I say that the bigness is, the large size is what's caused the problem. I have gone to the other direction, where the smallest person in America is you and me. Mm-hmm. And we are the ones who are the key for the economy, not the largest not the largest corporation, but you and I, without interface other than my website. We can create a better economy by eliminating all the extras and the overhead and the profitability and the unfairness and the illegalities of the major corporations. We don't need them, we need ourselves. And we can create an economy among ourselves, not by barter, but by offering useful tasks, so that all of us, like in your operation, you would find that you have times where you need to have some professional help, but you don't know who to go to, so you don't get the help. In my website, you could find the help that you need. You could advance your cause. You can pay them money, and the people will then earn money by doing the tasks that help you, and it advances you and it advances them. We don't need Walmart or any kind of major corporation here. We don't need an interface with boards of directors allocating money of the big corporation to you and me. We just need no big corporation instead, because they're the ones that cause the problem. Political problems, if nothing else. We don't need a group in charge of the economy. We need to have the individuals in America all working for their own self-interest and having a way that they can market their interests. And that is what I've created, a separate marketplace for offering our hours of work that were available to put in.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. That's what we've been. That's a wrinkle on entrepreneurialism and all that. That's what we've been doing and everything, and that's what we're.
But it couldn't have
doing.
been done. You know
so
why?
we don't have
but
to.
You know
we
why
don't have to visit. We don't have to revisit the fact that the way things are being produced, we had a thing called the Industrial Revolution since Adam Smith or since Tom Jefferson. There was no factories, there was no mass production, there was nothing, there was no automation, there was nothing like that. Labor was really important. We're still enthralled to the idea. It serves perfectly a narcissistic society where everybody thinks what they are so important, what they're important. One of the most important functions that the citizens of a society do is buy things. That they're consumers. That's what they are. They're consumers of mass-produced things. And they need to have, like milk and eggs and butter and bread and things like that they need to have. And the question is, how are they going to get money, real money that has value, that is going to buy those things, if the combine is turning out the product? To call that industry, call that industrialization, call that super-industrialization, automation, all those things, as Mr. Keynes said was going to become the case, not needing them. They just get in the way when they get in those places. You don't need them. You need good algorithms. You need good productive systems that can turn out the stuff. And then you have to have a way for the people who are not going to be needed in the productive process. That's the labor theory of value has to be visited. Get rid of them. Get rid of them as laborers. Now let me finish. Stop thinking about getting money for what you do. Just stop that. That's the problem. That's the problem. And then what you got to do is have an alternative way of relating the citizenry rather than as task makers or task doers or working through an ownership stake in the industrial pattern and post-industrial pattern, so that they have a steady stream of income because they have capital ownership of what is actually producing the thing. Then that gives them free to income to not only clear the market, but you need supply and demand.
Okay, now let me
finish.
Okay.
Then that frees them to be able to live a life when they relate to their fellow citizens that is not based on bartering back, money dealing, and all that kind of thing. They will do what they want to do. And when I was in New Paltz, you'd go in, if your car broke down, you'd go and have a coffee at the coffee shop. The guy would come in, what, you got a problem? You'd go out and fix it. It was just a thing where you could relate to people other than through the market.
Now let me
explain. Of people bartering back and forth.
Let me explain. You are suggesting that in 40 years we may have a much better way of breaking down the economy, a better way.
We have to do it now.
Okay, and I'm saying that right now, while we wait for your thing to take place.
Not 40 years.
Well, 20 years.
That's exactly what they're doing.
How long do you want people to stop eating and wait for you?
No.
I'm saying that we can eat meanwhile before what you planned comes true. I have a way in the interim. Maybe it's only a 5 or 10 or 20 year period, but I have a way where people can start making money right away. You can't do that under your system.
That's right.
And therefore,
That's
your
true.
System and my system are not in conflict with each other. Mine is a bridge. Mine allows right now, in the time of turmoil, economic turmoil, we can create employment and meaningful employment where they can make money and we can guide ourselves.
Get it off to Patterson.
Well, I did.
Get it off to Washington because you're right in tune with the zeitgeist. The outdated zeitgeist. It's perfect. The Employment Act of 1946. Let's shore that up. There's no problem with that. That's the problem. And it's the labor theory of value that has got us in the point where we're likely to get so strung out that we're going to blow the whole planet up with our capability that is so vastly concentrated in so few hands. We don't have a way of distributing income to people so that we have supply and demand.
We do.
We don't on a macroeconomic scale.
In a microeconomic scale.
Not microeconomic, macroeconomic scale.
I don't like to talk macro because macro doesn't have any answers. It only has questions.
Well, those are the people that inform the political process. It's John. Who are we talking? Where does your thing? Let me talk.
I'm a microeconomist.
You spoke for half an hour.
I'm a microeconomist.
And you laid it. Okay, that's Mr. Baumol, William Baumol, and those. Okay, so. But William Baumol. Okay, but he doesn't involve. He looks microeconomically at Sony and at industries and things. He doesn't look at Lonesome, Indiana. He doesn't look like that.
I'm looking at the ultimate. We have an individual who is unemployed that has 8 hours a day to put in. How can we find work for that person to do?
Well, we had a hard time in the 30s, didn't we? Until we got a war going. We could get a war going.
Do you know that what I'm proposing could not have been done 10 years ago?
Well,
do you know why?
True.
Do you know
because
why?
Of cyber?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that only
Broad.
in the past
Great.
10 years has what I'm proposing even possible.
Yeah.
So we've had hundreds of years to now, but in the past 10 years, what I'm proposing has become possible, and I've made it a reality.
Well, okay, that's good. No, that's good. Absolutely. Go with Lonesome Indiana. I want to go out there and see the town. I'd love to help you do that and everything. But in the meanwhile, what's going on with Mr. Paulson and what's going on in roiling this whole country and this whole world is going to be dealt with at the macroeconomic level. And they do not have. They're working toward it. And I'll tell you, for whatever it's worth, what they're working toward and the way it's going to come out is they're going to come out with a thing. It's going to be called the capital diffusion. You're just selling a bill of goods that you're making contributions through labor when labor is being supplanted. Okay, capital diffusion, ownership. Why do they think you can do everything by capital diffusion, reinsurance corporation that is going to back up the old credit system within the country and the world? That's what they're getting to. He just went off. Paulson went off in another direction now. They can't get the credit markets to work. They're going to have to address it at that level. And this thing that is going to be able to be done is good, but it's not going to get at the problem that is facing us right now.
It does
that
get
everybody
at the
is concerned with.
It does, because everyone has a chance of going to work and doing the things that he or she wants to do.
You're not going to get.
You can.
You're not going to be able
to.
Well, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
You generate income.
Well, if you could
for example,
if everybody could, Allen Ginsberg, God bless him, I loved him. He said everybody should be able to generate income by writing poetry and laying around.
Well,
so can you go out and try it? Go out and write something really creative. Go out and do something that isn't utilitarian, and try and get a loaf of bread.
Let me explain. My website allows you to even put down that you write poetry. So you put down 500 different things. It takes you several hours to figure out what to put down for yourself, and then you can even rank these to understand, so that people would know what your most favored thing is and what the least favorite.
And you're going to get money for it.
But
right?
You're going to be offering those tasks of writing poetry or mowing lawns in a marketplace.
Poetry for sale.
Well,
Love for sale.
And you're not going to get any takers on the poetry. You're going to get takers on mowing lawns, on repairing a carburetor.
Right.
So
that's true.
That's true. But in the same way that people that you're trying to sell your hours to, they too want to buy something, so that you can earn money for yourself by offering things that others want, and others can offer things that you want, and you will part with your money. Where did you get that money from? You got it from someone else.
From somebody else. Where did they get the money? Federal Reserve, the credit system, their dollar bills.
We're creating a new economy now.
Okay.
That this is a new economy where instead of jobs, we are offering tasks.
All right, I see that. That's like macroeconomic theory.
Right. It is micro. This is very
William
micro.
Balma, he's still down at NYU. You could talk to him.
It's micro in the sense that each person can, any one person that does this can become very wealthy, and everyone else that does nothing will get nothing. That's a micro. Here, an individual can make the change. It isn't like the sun shining hotter and that it affects everything. One person that uses this system properly can bring in a lot of money for himself or herself. And other people that laugh at it and say, I'm not going to do it, are going to watch the new economy take hold, where the people that make the effort of defining what other people want and calling them tasks and putting them in the database.
That's Schumpeter.
That is going to be, the money is going to shift to those that take advantage of this.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's
micro. That's micro.
Good. That's micro.
That's exactly
entrepreneurialism.
What it is. Yes.
And that's Joseph Schumpeter.
Yeah.
Joseph Schumpeter, creative entrepreneurialism. It's wonderful.
Okay.
It's really great.
Yeah.
But Joseph Schumpeter is not going to show, that's not going to shore up the national economy that Mr. Obama is going to be confronted with. We're going to have some sort of an answer that's going to address this situation. This 1 in 100 years is once in a 1,000-year event we're attacking, and it's bringing into question virtually all institutional assumptions by which those dollar bills are created and those systems are created. We're coming into a much bigger transformation than Mr. Schumpeter's entrepreneurialism.
If I'm right in hopeless,
you can do that now. You can become a really successful Bill Gates. He did well out of his garage.
If I'm correct in Hopeless, Indiana, I'm going to create an oasis in Indiana, a very prosperous town. Now that's a microeconomic problem because Hopeless is going to prosper and no one else will. If Hopeless is the only one doing this, we're going to have millionaires and Hopeless, and everyone's going to want to move into Hopeless.
Oh, yeah.
When all they need to do is to create Hopeless in their own town and do the same thing. That's all they need to do.
We're going to have to get we're going to have to get a national anthem, Hopeless Indiana. Yeah, something like that. No, that's great. I hope you're doing that and you get it off to Mr. Patterson, and do that, and
it's in his
follow
office
through,
right now.
Follow through on the thing up in Woodstock too, because you're going to get a lot of interest in that, and that value about how valuable human. See, they get that confused up. How valuable it is what I do is so written. It's like when Copernicus went around and said, and Galileo said we go around the sun, or Pasteur said there were no germs and everything, people had, it's apparent, they thought, all the arguments for keeping the old way, and we're going to keep the old way of thinking about human purpose, which is you're going to get for what you do. That's a very strong part of human nature and everything like that, and it's written into the Employment Act, I guess, of -- but I really think it's a way to camouflage the fact that all the assets that are owned by a tiny group own all the assets, own that combine that's creating all the wealth. And then they say, now you're going to work, they're not going to give any ownership. They're
have
being
ownership.
Forced to it.
They have ownership.
They don't have ownership over the capital instruments that are creating the wealth in the macro economy. They don't have ownership of that.
The wealth is internet. The internet is the capital.
No.
That's the only capital you need. It's internet.
No, the wealth is steel engines. It's the combine. There's wealth, and it's all owned by a tiny plutocratic class. And in fact, they're being ripped off because they're creating 90% of the wealth, and the people who are working away, 90% of the wealth was created by labor in Tom Jefferson's time. They've reversed. The wealth is being created by capital assets, all owned by represented, the corporate stock or representing the capital assets it's owned by a tiny group, and they're being ripped off because they don't get anything like back what they're actually producing, because we have to distribute all the income through jobs, because we have to keep people thinking that they're so important in what they do and keep their mind shut to the fact that it's okay for there to be such a plutocracy. That's a bigger question. They ought to shed ownership. Then once they got ownership, comfortably leisured, you can do what you want, you can interrelate with people, and you don't have to be making deals all the time.
What we ought to do is reduce the size of the largest corporations and not allow them to get to a size where if they would go under, we would have to prop them up.
That's what we're doing now.
And that's right. We're propping them up, which is wrong. It's wrong. We should be eliminating, we should be forcing them to declare an end to their corporate status, and with congratulations that they won the big prize. They are now to be liquidated because they achieved, and give them
a Hopeless Indiana.
No, you give them a gold watch for retirement. We ought to retire the largest, most successful corporations and let other people achieve the same thing. Wow. We shouldn't allow one corporation to keep growing more and more, and to have a public policy that allows them to do it, encourages them, and when they get larger, and then they fail because of their excesses, then we prop them up again. We give government money of the hard-working people to the major corporations that already have violated the law, have ruined the economy, and we make them even larger. This is absurd. It's
we're really in the realm of
So
absurd,
what I've created now is the opportunity for a town to opt out of all this.
Hopeless Indiana.
Hopeless Indiana can prosper in spite of the federal idiocies.
Well, all right.
They can prosper in the town, and any other town can prosper in the same
meanwhile,
way.
they're going to be fighting out this thing down in Washington, figuring up for a national policy. I think they should have a full production act They should build the capital formation into the people so that and that's what's going to, I think is different. They're going to liberate them to be able to relate to people without any thought of economic bartering back and forth between human beings. Back to a homestead where everybody's comfortable. I'll help you fix your car. That's all. It'll just be done at that level. That's a different kind of world. They'll have a condition of sufficiency for everybody. I think we're either going to have to liberate the planet or we're going to obliterate it. And we're at that point now. We got to have something other than Schumpeter or Keynes. We got to have something that's going to spread a system that the future requires. We don't have it now. That's what we need at a macro level. Anyway, always good talking to Carl Pearson. Hope Indiana is